Hey everyone, Aaron here from KPC, and welcome to KPC Underground. I am very excited to be here today with Jeff Lockhart. It's a familiar face around here. You may have seen him from time to time. You may have seen him up there on the stage, introing the different bands that are playing here. You may have seen him in one of those bands. But today I'm actually so for those of you who don't know, Jeff Lockhart is our fearless leader here. He's the executive director at KPC. But today, I wanted to talk to Jeff about being in a working band in the year 2023. And, I have to say, when I first met you, this was kind of the thing that stuck out to me was like, wow, this guy, he knows how to make a band work,
I appreciate it. Thank you, Aaron.
And I think, as a kind of, I'm more of a studio guy. I play in live bands, but I'm really like a studio. That's where I'm the most at home when I'm doing music. And so because of that, I think when I approach the live band kind of situation, booking and, rehearsing and things, my main focus is still let's get the music right. Let's be perfect on the music.
Right.
And then I guess everything else will maybe fall into place. But so I want to kind of pick your brain about what are the things you do, every time you start a new band that tend to work. But first I want to back up and just introduce yourself maybe for everybody and talk about the current bands that you're in right now. Cause it's sort of it's a rotating door sometimes for you. It's
yes,
I'm in this band,
very
now
much.
I'm out of this one, I'm in this one.
Right.
It's the same, but it's different people, but now it's a new name or whatever.
Right.
So what bands are you currently active in playing right now?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's a great conversation. This has been a real passion of mine since I can remember. And I'd say, and I'll answer your question about that, but this is a bug that bit me when I was a real little kid, and happy to go into that. But it's, so currently I am in 5 bands. But
5, because there was 2 I could think of. But
yes,
tell me. Okay,
and I'll tell you how it works. So,
Yeah.
I actually have a LLC called Live Vinyl Productions.
Right.
And
okay.
so, the people that I play in, most of them we've been playing together a long time, 10 years, some 20 years. And so as time went on, we had a band called Cream Tangerine for a long time. It was almost 20 years.
Beatles tribute band.
Beatles tribute cover band.
Yeah.
But as time would go on, after a decade, we'd start having the same clientele that would have us back.
Right.
But they liked working with us. But I would notice that as much as they liked working with us, they would get tired of hearing the Beatles altogether.
Sure.
So just by virtue of playing with other professional musicians, you'd have a repertoire of inventory that you'd start mixing in.
Sure.
Besides the Beatles, right?
Just to change it up.
Yeah. Right. And so then as the years went by, that would be hard to manage because you'd have the clients that wanted the Beatle thing, but the clients that you didn't want to have that. So as time went on, we started to divide the inventory into brands. And so we said, okay, we create a band that's just the Beatles and that drives in that lane of traffic. But then we had another band that would do hits, and then we'd branch into other genres and stuff like that. So it really became a group of people who we'd play together a really long time. And after all these years had amassed a knowledge of an inventory of music.
Right.
And then taking that and not looking at them as bands anymore, looking at them as brands.
Right.
Right. And so then it became managing the inventory within a brand to demographic. So right now there is a Beatles band that's called Good Day Sunshine.
Okay. So
that used to be called Cream Tangerine.
Right. Basically, the clientele in that has changed a little bit over the years, but you have some of the core, folks who are still in that.
That's right.
band.
That's correct. Yeah. But that trajectory.
Yeah. That's still kind of the same.
It began that started in 2003 and went through the evolutions that it has,
right.
And now is called Good Day Sunshine.
Gotcha.
And focuses on Beatles and mainly performing Beatles albums live, recreating Beatles albums,
like full albums. You'll do. Hey, come and check out Revolver. We're doing Revolver tonight.
Right. This year we're doing Revolver.
Yeah. Right.
Matter of fact, we just started a new show where we're doing Rubber Soul, and then we're going to compare it with Revolver. This first out here, it's going to be called Rubber Revolver.
Okay.
And we're going to tour that over the next year.
Cool.
We're already starting to book for it.
Great.
Okay, and then we also, same people, started a band called Long Live Rock, which just focuses on cliche classic rock. And that started because at the Cream Tangerine shows, somebody would yell Freebird.
Yeah.
And so we learned Freebird as part of the bit, and we play it all the way through to be dumb.
Yeah.
But then we got the idea, what if you did 2 hours of Freebird, Smoke on the Water, Stairway to Heaven,
We Will Rock You,
We Will Rock You,
yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody, and really did it well, right? But it's just 2 hours of classic rock, cliche anthems, Dream On, but you just go do it really well.
Yeah.
So there's those two. The other one, we have a band called Live Vinyl Collective, and that's just, they need a band of people that can play just a jukebox of music, and whatever the genre is, whatever, you hire us as musicians, and we'll play that for you.
Okay.
But we also back other musicians up. Like there might be a singer that needs a band, so you hire us as Live Vinyl Collective, and we back you, and we are your backing band.
So that's a little bit more work for hire kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're these guys, and we know here's our list of songs. We know all these songs, and we'll learn your 4 songs or whatever your songs are too. Come and hire us to like just be your band.
Yeah, I'm an artist. I don't have a backing band, and I've got a half hour. I need a band. Here's my songs. I'll hire you. Back me.
Sure.
Right? Like a Wrecking Crew.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Live Vinyl Collective.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we, so that was trucking along. And then we had a pandemic project. It was the same band with a different singer, or the singer in the other band, Long Live Rock and Good Day, is Byron Prather, who lives in San Diego. But then we, all of us, in practice, these lead into other things. In practice, we all love AM rock pop hits of the 70s. So you in practice and you start learning an Eagles song or Jackson Brown or the Mamas and the Papas. And so, and then we started a band called Laurel Canyon Legacy, which focuses on music from 1965 to 1975 from Los Angeles. And there was a movie Jacob Dylan did called Echoes in the Canyon that we're all a fan of. So we started a band, brought in a singer named Leah Harris, a female lead singer.
Who I know very well.
Who you know well.
Yeah.
And then we started that last year, end of 2020, and we started just kind of a fun project, a hobby project, but it took off.
Right.
So then over the last summer, we were out 15 times, and we're booking really solid. Matter of fact, we're playing KPC in February, and then we're playing the Everett Historic Theater in March. So that's getting traction in the theaters. But then in those practices, we would start rocking out for fun, like a Blondie song or a Pat Benatar song. So we spun another band with Leah called Analog Catalog. And that's female-led rock of the late 70s. Pat Benatar, Blondie, The Pretenders, and that's getting launched here pretty soon. So you see, like, by being together and playing and managing inventories, and you have an idea, instead of trying to have one band that does it all, we've learned to spin off brands is easier than spinning off bands.
Right.
And so we're looking at demographics and opportunity, and then we'll spin a brand off to it. And lastly, instead of one band trying to do, certain gigs that you may not want to do, any one of these bands in their own category only have to be at the top demand. And all of us stay busy by only working the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And being good at certain categories instead of trying to be one band that does it all.
Right.
So therefore, let's say your goal is to be out 50 times a year. None of the bands have to go dominate. They each only have to have 5 or 6 gigs that are great gigs.
Yeah.
So in essence, every time you go out is a great gig.
Yeah.
Because you're only skimming the top of the great gigs.
Right.
So by managing inventory in 6 or 7 brands, you do that. And then lastly, I just joined I didn't start this, but I got hired to be the drummer in an electric light orchestra band.
Okay.
And that'll be out about half a dozen times a year.
Right.
But none of these bands have to be out 30 times a year.
Right.
You're limiting how many times out a year you are, but you're only cherry picking the best of the gigs from the market.
In essence, you're limiting your sort of market share in that sense. I don't know if that's the right word, but you're kind of going, hey, we only have to Beatles, like here's the appetite for like Beatles, tribute bands or whatever. And so we don't have, because it's probably not 100 dates a year just for Beatles tribute bands.
Unless you want to tour America, that's another story.
But
right?
you guys are, for the most part, local. You'll travel a little
Pacific
bit.
Northwest.
Pacific Northwest, so you'll travel a little bit. But that's so interesting, and you kind of answered some of my questions here, that I have coming up. But like I said, kind of in the intro, is like you've definitely unlocked some kind of like, here's how you do it. Like, here's how you make a band successful. And I think, for maybe some people listening out there who are maybe starting a band, maybe they're trying to write music or whatever, I think it's like a deer in the headlights when you have to kind of book your first show or play a show, or what do I do to go from like, okay, we have 10 songs, they're pretty good. Maybe they're originals, maybe they're covers, maybe it's a combo, of both. So regardless of genre and whatever, and I think also it goes without saying, like, make sure you're good enough to go play live somewhere.
Right.
Don't go before you're ready.
Right.
And maybe we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, like, what would you tell a young band? What's the first step after, like, we're pretty good. We rehearse in my mom's basement or whatever it is. We want to play a show. What do we do? What do we need? Do we need to have a professional recording? Do we need? Do we just cold call places? How do we get into some of these places? If I want to play at the Sunset Tavern, or if I want to play at Neumos one day, or if I want to play at Barboza, or if I want to play at KPC, or if I want to play wherever, what do I need aside from just being in a band that has a that sounds pretty good? Like, what do you need?
That's a great question. I think number one, let me back up even. You could ask a lot of people that, and they might give you different. What I'm saying isn't the only way to do this, or someone else might get, this is the way that I think about it. And all these 6, 7 crazy bands, this is how I approach it. First of all, I think you hit the nail on the head. Number one is, honestly, not to gloss over, make sure, get your music down first, right? So I don't think you have to have 2 hours worth of music, but there should be, just to be really practical, there should be 30 minutes of stuff that is really solid. And it's not something that you think is good. This is what musicians don't like to hear. It's 30 minutes of stuff that we call it keeping the rope taut. It's 30 minutes of whatever your genre. It could be originals or covers, but it's 30 minutes that will keep people engaged and listening to you. And but my business is mostly cover songs. So it's not, those aren't necessarily my favorite songs. There's a lot of songs I don't like playing, right? But I'm thinking it's 30 minutes of stuff that will be engaging, and get that down and tight. So let's assume that part's done.
Okay.
Now, how do I take this out?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's hard for artists to hear is that when I'm out playing, and I have a goal to be out playing like that. Imagine this was a pie chart. I spend 90% of my time in doing the things that would take to get my band out, and 10% of the time I spend the reasons I do. So I'm the drummer in my band. Yeah. But let's say that the given time I have in my life to spend on this, and the reasons I'm doing it, being on a stage and rocking out for people, that's fun. That's 10% of it. It's 90% is what I'm about to say that allows me to do that 10%, right? So I realize that the difference between a coffee table being my audience and people, there's steps to take that allow that to happen. And as a drummer, I think a lot of musicians too are like, they're focusing on that I'm the best. I'll pick on as a drummer. Am I the best drummer? Do I have the best gear? Does it say DW on my drum set? What kind of kick drum pedals I have? And nobody cares about that, right? What's more important to people is what we would call a brand. So in terms of, to answer your question, your music's down. Okay, the next thing is, whenever I'm starting a band or a brand, my philosophy, my goal is that when I take this public, it looks as if we've been doing this 10 years. Yeah. It takes a long time to do that. So you might have come and see our band at a little club, but what you didn't see is, and here's what I mean by that. Yeah. Number one, hey, Jeff, let's go out and gig this thing. Hold on, everybody. I know we want to get out and gig. Yeah. Before we do that, there's some things we have to, number one, we have to invest in some good photos. And we have to look like we're not everyone get a selfie in front of my driveway, but let's go hire a photography. It might be $200-$300. And let's think intentionally about what our band is about. Like the Laurel Canyon Band, we made sure we waited 3 months till it was the right day, the right weather, went to Marymore Park, went out and stood amongst the tall grass like it was 1969, and we looked like we're Creedence Clearwater Revival, and took the pictures that way, right? Because that one photo is the brand of the band, right? Or with the Beatles one, we made sure it was the right time. We went and walked across the sidewalk or the crosswalk like Abbey Road, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in investing in that photo. So, and that's not to like, so, I mean, I think that's really important, and not to gloss over that, because that is the first impression a lot of people are going to see before they even hit play on your thing, because it's probably an email,
maybe to
It
someone
is.
or whatever, and then it's an email, and it's like, what's that first photo? What, and
No, as a matter
and
of
so
fact,
for
I
your
mean-
genre, I mean, just to continue on that, like for your genre, I mean, maybe you were a kid who plays indie rock or whatever, but like, what are other bands in that genre?
That's
what,
right.
what do their photos look like? And something that fits in that tells your story kind of without
right.
any audio.
That's
sort
really
of a
well
thing.
said.
Yeah.
That's said better than I just
Yeah.
said. And for us guys that work in a theater, the joke is no one ever said they went to hear a show. They said I go to see a show.
Yeah.
We all say I saw. I don't say
I saw this band.
I went
Yeah.
to the showbox and I heard a band.
I heard a band,
No, we
yeah.
don't say I went to the showbox and I saw a band.
Yeah.
And I think that people decide musically with their eyes first.
Right.
Right. And that's pop music. That's
Right.
rock and roll. That popular music.
So much more so. I mean, never mind an audience. Much more so if you're trying to get into a very like a club who sees or a venue that sees a lot of these things come through.
That's right.
And is discerning and going, no, not that one. Yes, this one. No, not that one. And
Yeah.
and you might get disqualified before they even hit play on your thing, just because like your band photo looks cheesy and like
Right.
you weren't trying.
Right.
you know?
And now, again, going back, I'll pick on myself
Yeah.
as a drummer. Well, does that guy understand how many paradiddles I had to do and how many charts I read and my new Ludwig drum set? They don't care about that, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
right. I mean, it's just the way business gets done. So,
Right.
number one, be good as your band.
Good photo,
Get that
yeah.
photo done. Second of all, get a good recording. And what I mean by recording, I'd say upwards of 5 demos, audio and video. Right, so you want to have MP3s because they do want to hear what you have to say,
Yeah.
or what you sound like, I should say. Forgive me, and then also what you look like. In other words, if you're trying to get when you go to a club or a venue, there's a talent buyer, and they want to
Yep.
know what they're buying. Right,
Yeah.
so there needs to be a sample. So in the work I've done with you with our bands,
Yeah.
we'll record 5 different things. There's a up tempo, a mid tempo, a slow song, a barn burner, and whatever. Right,
Yeah.
and then I have those individually. Each songs.
Yep.
And then they're consistent in the way they look and the titles and the lower thirds and stuff. But then more important, I take a conglomeration of those and I make a sizzle reel. This
Yeah.
is really, really important. A 45-second sizzle reel, under a minute long, because as a person who's a talent buyer in my full-time career, and as someone who is trying to get someone to buy my talent, I realize that people, when I send it to them, they probably have a quick second. They're sitting there at lunch. They may be sitting in their car or whatever, walking on the street, and they look at my sizzle reel, and they look at it, and they push go. They're going, yes, yes, no. And in about 25 seconds, they decide if they're
They
going to
made
hire
the
your band.
decision.
And I
Yeah.
know it's not, again, musicians like to hear that.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Right.
So having that sizzle reel,
Yeah.
those are very important. Nextly, once you have your band stuff down and you have a photo and now you have MP3s of yourself
Yep.
and you have videos of yourself, it's really important to create an online presence.
Right.
And there's 2 things important. There's a way to create an online presence for people who are going to buy your product as a talent buyer, as a way to build a website or online presence for your fan base. What I focus on in terms of getting hired, the first thing I do is I'm not building it so much for the fans that's there. Usually when you are building a website, the way I think is I'm building it for an audience of 1.
The person who's going to book you or not.
That's exactly right. So let's say, most of us think in terms of, oh my gosh, how many likes did I have? Or how many hits
Yeah.
did my website have? When I'm building the website, I realize that I'm building this website for probably fewer than 100 people. If everybody checks it out and I have a bunch of people, that's awesome. That's
Yep.
great. That's great. But when I design the website, if you looked at the website of the bands that I just mentioned, that
Yeah.
I'm in and that I manage and all that stuff and I play in, I'm really designing the website for the person who's going to hire me
Yeah.
to play at the venue. So I know that fewer than 100 people are even going to see this website, but that's the purpose of it.
So it can be a little bit more specialized and targeted in that sense, where like
Not a little more, a lot more.
Yeah.
Like it's super, like if
Yeah.
you go to our website, like laurelcanyonlegacy.com, shameless plug.
Yeah.
Or Long Live Rock, thelongliverock.com. The websites have the same design features, but they're deliberately one page. There's no landing pages on them. So you go on, there's the logo, and here's what it's answering. You're thinking empathetically, what's the talent by? What do they look like? What do they sound like? How are they designed? Because your logo, I'm getting that in a second.
Yeah.
The way it's designed is talking about the sometimes the message is the media.
Yeah.
The quality of this band is being reflected in this website, right? So sometimes people just throw a website up, but that's not good enough. People are judging you against other people with great websites.
Yeah.
So you go to the website, big logo, photos of the band. There's that video of the band. Here's how to listen to the band. The contact information, how to book the band.
Yep.
Yeah, how to get in touch. What you're about in your bio in 2 or 3 sentences.
Yeah.
There's nothing about Jeff Lockhart plays Ludwig drums and Zildjian cymbals and Vic Firth drumsticks. Who cares? Right?
I grew up in this area.
No one gives a rip, right?
Yeah.
It's who's in the band and what do they do.
Yep.
There's no bio on each person. A 2-second bio, 2 sentence. How to get a hold of, how to get in touch.
Yep.
And then where are you playing next? They want to
Yep.
see where you're playing, what's your next schedule. And then there's some links to download our stage plot, our
Yep.
writer,
Yep.
Our set list. As all the things that people are asking.
Yeah.
And to go through my entire website like that, literally you could do it in 1 minute.
Right. And is there you mentioned shows. Here's our shows we have coming up. Obviously, that's a big one. If you do have shows, if you don't have shows, would you leave that section off the site?
I would leave it and not
Yeah.
put anything up. But what I would
Yeah.
do is I wouldn't be disingenuous and say there's shows when there's not.
Yeah.
Or the other trick people say private event because no one's gonna know what that was. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
What I would do, let's
It's
say
my practice,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's a
Let's say
private
you're
event.
getting started and you don't have any shows. What I would do, you're brand new, you want to get this going. I would think of 4 places to play once a quarter for the next year. And put it on there, and it could be anything. A house show counts. Most public municipal
Online thing, Facebook Live, whatever.
Facebook Live, or rent a park. I know there's
Yeah.
parks that you can rent it for. You can reserve it for $50 and put a show on.
Yeah.
Rent a park, put the show on. Don't worry about the fame and fortune and the crowds. That's a good point. To a talent buyer, the fact that you have shows
Just
are more important than
having
how many
shows on
people
there.
are coming to the
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Right.
So those are the things. Okay, now let's say you did all that.
Yeah.
So there's 3 things that I have online. Have your website, like I just said. Number 2, have a Facebook about your band.
Yep.
And all that about that. And number 3, when you make those videos, start a YouTube channel. Those are the 3 things that are super important to have online: a website, Facebook channel, and a YouTube channel, a Facebook page, and a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And
maybe an Instagram nowadays for or whatever.
Sure,
Yeah.
that could be.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's say you do all that. How do you
Yeah.
get a gig?
Yeah.
All right. So the way I started this when I was a kid, and I still do it to this day when I'm launching a band, I literally this is old school. I get out a notebook pad and I get out a Sharpie. I write down the 25 places that I want to play.
Uh-huh.
And I don't mean like, the Astrodome.
Climate Pledge, yeah,
I'm not talking about Climate Pledge
yeah,
Arena
yeah.
or Austin City Limits.
Yeah.
With
or even KPC. I mean, like it's some.
I should say 25 places that I think that we have a shot
that
at.
you could. Yeah, you have your shot at.
And I will say this.
Yeah.
I look at it. Thanks for saying that. I look at it as a ladder. So let's say there's 5 rungs to the ladder, and rung 1 is my living room.
Yeah.
Right? Or my mom's rec room,
Yeah.
right? Whatever.
Yep.
Let's say rung 5 is the Crooklyn Performance Center.
Sure.
You don't go from your rec room to the Crooklyn Performance Center on a
Yeah.
phone call. And let me talk about that for a second.
And you don't even want to. That's the thing. It's
You
like,
don't
even
want
if,
to.
Even if you could book it, it's too much of a. I mean, I think that's maybe a misconception kids have nowadays too, or young people in bands are like, if I could just get in at this place, then I'd make it big or whatever it is. But you and I both know that, especially nowadays, that just because someone books a thing does not mean people are going to come to it.
That's right.
And you have to draw as an artist, and that's honestly a big thing we look at when we book bands here or we don't, is like, what's their draw going to be? Are they going to actually sell tickets here? And that's really the bottom line.
Well, that's a good point, because I think people think at KPC, or not even KPC, but any venue where there's a talent buyer, a lot of artists go in and talk about the merit of how good they are. But a talent buyer,
we're better than this other band that played here the last week.
They don't
or whatever.
care how good you are. They just care if you can draw.
Yeah.
I know at KPC, if you can draw 400 people, then I'm interested. Whether I think, a lot of times people talk to me and ask me and tell how, and because everybody's good that comes. Like you get their stuff in they send you an email link and it's all really good, right?
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's really, really good,
right.
or else they wouldn't be sent it to you. That's really common.
Right.
But then when we look at it, we want to encourage all all artists to keep doing their craft is, and we're a fan of that. But really, it's not about how good you are. We're not American Idol. It's really, can you fill a performance seat theater?
Right.
So I was going to say, in terms of that ladder analogy, I'd encourage new bands or artists to go, okay, look at as a ladder, and on the first rung, where's 25 places that you think that you could be a good fit to go to? It could be a club, a tavern, a bar, whatever, a coffee shop. And then try in the next year to get 6, so that, because if there's 25 places, probably you're going to hear 3 no's for every time you get a yes.
20% of that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So if you want to play 6 places, you probably have to ask 25 people.
Yeah.
And hearing no is normal. It's okay.
Yeah.
Hearing no is normal, right? And so I could talk all day about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I encourage people to do is do that on the first rung, but then don't stop there. What's the stuff that's right out of reach on the second rung?
Yeah.
That on the second rung, write down 25 of them that they would be impressed with what you did on the first rung.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the 25 places I think I would fit. Let's be real here. We're new. It's a coffee shop.
Sure.
But what's right out of our reach? Man, the next thing, we would be honored to open for a band at this club. Right?
Wherever.
So write down 20 of them that as soon as you have 6 gigs booked on the first rung of the ladder, then go tell the second rung that you have this. So market the
we
fact
played
that
at this. We played at this place, and we played at this place, and that's in your email.
That's exactly right.
Buyer.
Okay, so now when I go knock on the door of the second rung people, the message to them is, I want to play at your venue.
Yep.
Here's the next 6 shows we play. They're going to, okay.
Yep.
And check us out here. And then when they click on your stuff, there's your website. You're looking all awesome. There is your YouTube. There is your Facebook. So then when the second rung people, now you're off to the races, right?
Yeah.
When that second rung talent buyer goes and checks out your world, they're seeing 6 legitimate shows.
Yeah.
And they're seeing an online present that this isn't just an idea. These guys are a band.
Yeah.
Okay? When you start doing 6 shows on the second rung and 6 shows on the first rung, there's 12 shows. Some are the little coffee shop, and some you're opening at the really cool club you want to. And this online present. Now the third rung, you're off to the races.
Right.
Now you want to go to the third rung, and you want to tell that story of everything on the second and first rung, all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
Now that's a whole other story.
Right.
Okay, that's not just getting started.
Right.
But that's how you build momentum to do it.
Right.
And that doesn't have to take as long as you think it might take. So a lot of this comes down to the people who will work the phone. And what I mean, so let's say you go the first rung ladder thing. Then what I do is I create an email.
Yep.
That's a 1-page email, and on the email I copy and paste. This is very easy.
Yeah.
Copy and paste your photo, copy and paste your logo. Have a little hey, we'd be honored to do this kind of stuff. Write 3 sentences about what your band does, and have links to your songs, your MP3s at the bottom, and have a signature at the bottom that looks cool with your logo.
Yeah.
Send that.
Yeah.
Give it 3 days. Call the talent buyer. I sent you an EPK.
Yeah.
Okay, electronic press kit. You have a chance to look at that. Is there a date? Did you have a chance to? Yes. No. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I sent that to you, and I'd be honored if you consider what date do you have available in the next 3 months that we could play. What you don't say is, are you interested? Do you have a date available?
Yeah. What date do you have?
What date do you have available?
So it's kind of those target. It's like using that sort of like intentional language.
Open-ended questions, not closed-ended questions.
What dates do you have? What date do you have?
Yeah,
available?
hi. This sounds. This is important.
Yeah.
If I say Aaron, would you be interested? Do you have a date available in the next 3 months? You could say no.
Right.
But if I said, Aaron, what date do you have available in 2023 that we could perform at your venue? That's a different conversation.
Right.
After they just received that stuff from you, your chances of closing that probably just went at 50%.
It's easier to say no, or a knee-jerk no to do you have any dates, or are you interested? Rather,
Right.
Are you interested? I don't know. We get a lot of these, so.
So what do you do if you say, because rejection's hard?
Yeah.
I always feel better if I know what I'm going to say when they say no.
Well, yeah, that's
so. Let's say
so you're Jeff, and you're like, did you get a chance to look at that? Yeah, I got a chance to look at it. Doesn't seem like something we'd be.
Gosh,
really
no, thanks for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that. What date would be better to call you where you would know it's better to to book us.
Right.
Or is this a busy time for you? Or is there a better time I can call?
Right. Giving yourself every opportunity with kind of the I mean, it's a little bit of knowledge of scripts or whatever. I don't know if you even have you probably have them just cemented in your brain from years of doing it.
A long time,
but
once upon a time,
it might not be bad to have
a
script.
I did have a script. I'd write that out, and I'd say, "Here's what I'm going to say," and then if they say yes, here's what. Thank you. If they say no, how would I answer that? I script it out.
Especially because we musicians, and artists are notoriously. It's like this is not just a career thing as much as we've been talking about the business side of it. This is, for some people, this is our whole personality. You know what I mean? This is our life. This is
what you do.
This is our heart.
It's who you are.
And so you have to know, and you have to, and even I think having a script or something like that is a good way to guard your own vulnerability to go, okay, like a no doesn't mean like I'm a bad person and whatever. So having a script there to go, okay, like if they say no, or if they say, I don't think we'd be interested, or if they say we don't have anything at this time, here's what I say. I don't, because it's just so easy, I think. And speaking from personal experience, it's like showing your friends a song and they show kind of disinterest or whatever, and you're like, it's devastating to you, to get like a rejection in any area of life, but especially when it comes to, these areas of like, this is my art. This is this is everything I am,
Well, and on top of all that, I think like then you're sitting there and going, mustering the guts to make the phone call. Like you're sitting there going, okay, I'm not in the mood today. You procrastinate because it's intimidating, right? But I found when you have a script, until you get practice, which is normal, that's just being a human.
Sure.
It takes the guy picks up the phone, the person picks up the phone, and you're like, and you lose your, like, oh my God, like, it's going down now, right? Like, here it goes. This is real. I really have a talent buyer on the phone, and you deer in the headlights, right?
Yeah.
You have the script, just read the script.
Yeah.
You're just like, hi, Aaron, this is Jeff Lockhart from the band ABCDFG, and I sent some, you just read the script, right?
Yeah.
If they say yes, great, we'd be honored to do that. If they say no, is this a bad time? Is there a better time for me to call to book,
And sometimes you will get flat out rejections, and that's like you said. I mean, you're going to get, if you have 25 venues, especially if you're an unproven band and you really don't have gigs or whatever, 90% of those might say no,
And I would even say on things like that, is my band a good fit for your venue? Or is this the bad timing? The schedule's booked up, or is it just not a good fit? And if they say, Jeff, it's just not a good fit, thanks for your time and move on. It's okay. It's just not a good fit.
I've even too, I've had success talking to people because a lot of the talent buyers, they all know each other too. That's the thing in the city. And so, on the plus side, I've had good luck with, or good experiences with, like, hey, I know Evan over here at Numos. He booked us for this thing and whatever, I know you know him or whatever, and if you want to ask him about us, it was a really great show and things like that. So leveraging kind of that, those connections. But I think also even on the rejection side, if you can build a rapport kind of with those types of people, talent buyers who are notoriously, I mean, they just have to be. It's the nature of their business. They have to be kind of ruthless with what they're doing. They're cutting, no, not this, yes, this, no, not this.
It's not personal.
So it's not personal. They're just doing their job. Hey, thank you so much. Hey, if we're not a good fit for you, do you have a suggestion of like, a different venue in your area? Hey, I'm new to this, and do you know anyone who might be better? Oh, and maybe they'll fire off 2 names to you. Hey, call this person. Now you have, hey, I talked to this person over here and they said we might be a good fit for your venue or whatever. Yeah. And so just having that one more, making it a little warmer than just a 100% cold call. Like, here's my in, other than all of my assets that I have. I got my video, got my little recording. I've got my website. I got my Instagram. Also, I know this guy. I know this guy that knows you, and and maybe that I feel like I've had success with that. And So,
that's good. Yeah, absolutely. It's all relationships and networks, and that's really good.
So I mean, I had a question. I mean, like you, I like that you kind of get off on this stuff. That it seems, and that's, I think, rare, especially in a band. I mean, obviously you're you're now the ED of a theater, and you've been doing this for how long have you been the ED here at KPC?
It'll be as we record this, it's December.
Yeah.
In February, it'll be 9 years.
Okay, so 9. So yeah, I mean that's been part of your life for a long time now. But was more often than not in bands, the manager, and speaking from personal experience here, it's sort of a begrudging like I did it in past bands because the band was kind of my idea, or I wrote the songs and nobody else wanted to do it.
Yeah.
If someone else had the kind of business acumen and the fire in their belly that like a guy like you has, or if I was in a band with you, I'd be like, Jeff, you go do it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to do it. I want to focus on the music.
Yeah.
I'll do the recording. I'll write the songs. I'll put my heart into it. I'll do all of that.
Yeah.
I'll lead rehearsals, lead the band musically. I love doing that, and I think most people love. That's why we all love doing it. Because we love the music.
Yep.
But have you kind of always been like that, or did you do that begrudgingly at first, or have you always kind of found a fascination with just making the business side?
Yeah, no, that's a good. I've always loved doing it. I don't know why no one told me to do that. I didn't read a book or nothing. It just automatic. And when I first started this, I thought everybody did that. I didn't really know any better. And so in my bands, whenever I played, I was always the person that gravitated. But the reason I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think in every band, if you're operating as a team and the group of guys I've been, one of the guys, Chuck, we've been doing this 20 years together.
Yeah.
Everybody has a superpower. It's like the Avengers, right?
Yeah.
Like the Hulk does one thing, and Captain America and Black Widow, and everybody has a role in the Avengers, and we joke about that. And in our band, everybody has this. My superpower is to do this, but then Chuck is more the music director. Shaquille's the recording God epic.
Yeah.
He's awesome at that, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And everybody has their role to play. Someone might be a web specialist or whatever that is, logistics or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I've always gravitated to this. So I started playing drums when I was 11. Mm-hmm. I started playing gigs when I was still in junior high. And so, you'd play, we'd set up in the cafeteria after school and play, but, one of my buddy's uncles had a furniture refinishing store, and we'd have the kids come and they pay $1 and they could, but even when we did, I was the one setting that up, and, we're going to load in, and then when the kids come, they have to spend $1, and then we're going to make flyers and we're going to hand them all out and hand out our cassettes. Yeah. I took that role. I don't know why. Yeah. I love it. And then as time went on, people ask me on role at KPC, like if I have a degree in like fine arts or music, and I don't have I got a business, I have an MBA, right? Yeah. And so, how did a rock and roll drummer end up getting an MBA? Yeah. It's just the way my mind works. And I've always loved how, music and business works together. I mean, I just being a geek, I love the history of record labels. I love learning how Thomas Edison started that, and then the Capitol Records and Stax Records and Motown and all those, Columbia, and the history of record labels and how they ran their business and what it meant to a community or a genre or an era or a movement is super fascinating to me, especially pre the digital age. Like say the 1950s through up until I'd say the era of the CD. It's always been really, really interesting to me.
Well, there's a lot more mystique to it back then, and I think also it was just a world you never got to peek behind the curtain, and so nowadays everything's kind of all out there, although there still are, I think, and even, that's why it's good to talk to you today, just, hey, here's how you make it work. There are, secrets to know or good things to know about it. But I think back then it did seem like a different world. And I mean, so that makes sense if you came up in that world to kind of develop that fascination with like, hey, how do these worlds work?
Yeah, I grew up in Federal Way, which is a suburb of Seattle, and I graduated from high school in the 80s. Yeah. And then I was in college up until the late 80s, almost early 90s. But I mean, in the Seattle area, there was definitely a rock and roll scene. And when you which eventually led into the grunge movement and Sub Pop and all that stuff. But a real DIY ethic of promoting your band, playing with other bands, network bands. Other bands weren't competitors. You'd share. You go to each other's shows. You'd share band members. You might be. I remember when I was in high school. We all like Def Leppard, long hair, metal guys. But you would go to UW. We'd think nothing of going to the UW and handing out street team posters with a Mohawk punk band.
Yeah,
we would think nothing of that, and vice versa, and go into their show, go to a screamo punk show, and then they would come to our metal show, and then we would go see R&B people.
Yeah,
it was just in at least in Seattle, in the area I grew up in, you would think so. Hence, in a DIY. Than having like seeing a band, like we didn't think of it at the time, but a band being an entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah.
I just gravitated toward being the one that was like, okay, now we got to book the show. Now we have to put the tickets on sale. I want to make the show happen, and then here's how we're going to promote it and talk about it and brand it. And here's by the way, we have to count our money and have a checking account and make sure we don't screw it up and pay our bills on time and be honest about it. And here's how much it costs to do the show. And here's how we're going to print off our flyers and just all of that. Put the show on. As much as I was taking drum lessons and working on being a drummer, the other side of that was as fun, and I got off on as much as it was being the band. To this day, what I'm doing now, starting when I was 11, it's just I'm a grown up now, and I went into work and I run a theater now,
which is very adjacent to all.
I became this, and I wasn't even set out to. It's just I'm lucky enough to do it.
That's interesting, and I think that's a good point for people to know. Maybe people who are listening, that if you want to do it, you can do it. You absolutely can do it.
I appreciate that. I just believe you make your own luck, right? Yeah. And then I want to look at my own heroes that
Billy Zane,
yeah. Like anyone that's my musical hero. I mean, I self-admit the Beatles. Led Zeppelin, and then even Dave Grohl. That's the perfect example. The Foo Fighters. Any I could name the list.
He's
right?
just your guy. I know.
Absolutely, 100%. But Dave Grohl is the main proponent of this. Nobody was born awesome at what they did. What you don't see, you see whoever your hero is and whatever name whatever your genre, jazz, rock, blues, gospel, whatever your music is. What you didn't see is that person at home. Maybe their mom and dad making them go into that was me. I was growing up. I mean, I wanted to quit. I was 11. My mom made me go to music lessons every week, and then you're in your bedroom over and over. Your teacher over and over. So anyone's great. You don't see the hours and hours and hours and hours of what it took to do that when they weren't Eddie Van Halen yet, or they weren't Celine Dion, right? They were just a kid learning that stuff, right? And then, and I think that's inherent in that. But then also, if there's something that me or my team, my band wants to do, and we don't know how to do it, I just really believe I'll learn to do it. Like, I want to do this music. I don't know how to play it. I'm not good at it yet. Yeah. But it's only time away. If I want to be that, only thing between me and doing that is time. Yeah. If I put the time in, right? And then two things have to, you go back to square one. I've got to learn the music and be good at it. Yeah. And then I've got to do this formula to let the people know about it. Right. And the only difference between that is time and things, the formula, right? So when I joined the ELO band, we're learning most of their hit catalog. That's daunting. That's like putting a puzzle. It's really hard to do that. And I had to really drill in and do it. I didn't know how to do that 3 months ago. I can do it now because I'm out in my cold garage woodshedding it, and now we're going to build a marketing plan around it. But it's not because I was born awesome and how to do it. I had to figure the way out to do it. But
you wanted it bad enough.
You want it bad enough, you can do it. Yeah, and I think that anybody, I've been playing drums since a little kid, it's a long time. But if you're a musician already and you got a Les Paul or you got a piano or you have a trumpet, and there's a concept that you want to do, it's just how much time you want to put in the woodshed to learn it, and then how much of the marketing do you want to put together. You work that formula.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we need to wrap up. I've kept you way too long
for
what I thought.
Super fun. I could talk all day about this stuff.
I absolutely love it. We'll have the full podcast whenever you're watching this, and hopefully you listeners are enjoying and everything. And I also want to say too, if you're watching this on YouTube, These are video podcasts as well as audio podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, please comment if you have a question for Jeff, because, we're checking these YouTube comments and everything. If you have a specific comment about, I would say, specifically to like business, how do I do this? How do I do that? If I want to send my stuff to a record label, if I want to XYZ, hey, we'd love to take your questions. We may answer some of them, maybe just write in the comments there. But to finish, what is the biggest mistake you see young bands make?
Biggest mistake young bands make is spending too much time trying to make their music awesome and not enough time working the formula.
And when you say work in the formula, you mean developing a marketing and sort of public presence to
yeah.
Sell,
See a lot of
band.
new young artists that a year's gone by and they just keep trying to make the song better and better and better. And I'm not saying that you like suck or anything like that.
Right.
There's some point where it's just time to go and do it, and you're only going to get so good privately.
Yeah.
There's a point that you can't get to unless you're live. You gotta go live. You won't get to like Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
That's live, right? You gotta play live to get to a certain point.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I don't want to gloss over that. Because number one, well, two things. Number one thing I learned was I think good enough is kind of like a dirty word sometimes in music or artistry or whatever, or making an album, whatever. That's good enough. Sometimes that can be looked at negatively. I think there's a positive way to look at good enough, and 100%. A very mentally healthy way to look at good enough, especially for a perfectionist.
Yeah.
This is good enough.
Yeah.
This is good enough.
Get out and play.
And to your point, on the other side of it, you don't actually know. Like, I've written songs that I didn't think were the hit song. And then we go out and because I'm a songwriter too, and then we go out and play them, and I'm like, oh, everyone likes. I like this one.
Yeah.
Everyone likes this one.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the band loves it.
Right.
The public goes crazy for it. I didn't think that it was like the hit, because we do not have an objective. A good objective view of our own art, so you have to get that outside feedback to go, oh, that whatever, like whatever it is. Hey, your bass player is kind of like dragging the rest of your band down. Or, on the positive side, we really love this song. Oh, we really love when your guitar player does this. We really love when your drummer does this, when your singer does this. And you have to take both sides of that. You have to take the negative and the positive. Some songs that I have loved, I feel like I have to sell them to my own band. I'm like, trust me, guys, this is my favorite song, and I cry when I sing it, or whatever it is. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's really about connecting with that audience. 100%. And so you have to, you don't have to do everything they say, but it's good to know that stuff. It's good to know, okay, this is our hit song.
You can be really good at being in a studio or practicing at home, and you're like, we are really good at practicing. Yeah. That's different than we're a really good live band, and you can't get there.
Right.
But you don't have to play Climate Pledge Arena. It could be just play in front of human beings.
Right.
And go to an open money.
Mic. Go to
It ain't about how much money we made tonight. I'm not saying lose a bunch of money, but go to open mic, open for a band. Well, be the fourth band that opens. You only have a 15-minute slot. Get out and play in front of people.
Right.
And if you take the fame and the money out of it, just get in front of humans and play.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, I guess I'll say. One of the things that I sort of recently came across was the word amateur means for the love. And so, doing music, there's that line between like doing music because you love doing music. Obviously, those are like the passion is important, and that's like key. If you have people who, on the flip side of that, who are just career guys or whatever. And I encountered a lot of those people in Nashville who all of the professionalism was there, all of the skill was there, the passion was gone.
Yeah.
It was they were cynical, they were jaded, they didn't even want to be there, which to me was a tragedy because they're such amazing musicians.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what went wrong here?
Yeah.
And it was part of why I had to actually get out of that town.
Yeah.
It was like there's too much like there's too many like broken dreams here, people who went there thinking they were going to be a rock star. But I think all that to say, I think, one of the things I like about you is you have a joy to, I'm in 5 bands or whatever.
Oh,
And it's funny,
thanks.
like
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I love doing all this. But you love booking shows and then obviously playing shows. But I think finding the joy in it is so key, and centering that as the metric of, did I succeed or not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I like to say I'm an amateur musician. I do music as an amateur, which is to say I do it for the love. I
Right.
do it because I love doing it. I want to make the money work, and I want to be successful and professional, and and all of that stuff is important. You do that, but I think it's an interesting balance, and I don't know if you have anything to say about that, like in terms of how do you strike that balance between like, man, I gotta like, we're playing tomorrow at this venue. It's raining, and there's 2 flights of stairs. I got to carry my stuff down, and we have to bring the PA. And I've been at shows where with you guys where you've had to do that. You bring it up 2 flights of stairs, but how do you still maintain the sense of like, well, you know what, like we're doing this because we love it.
No.
And so how do you balance that?
First
And
of
how
all,
do you maintain that?
one thing, I love everything to do with rock and roll and a show, the load in, the camaraderie, the hauling the stuff up. I don't know why I'm like that. I'm just, I'm a drummer. I could have been a flute player. So number one. Number two, again, everyone's different. I decided a long time ago that I didn't want to like do this full time. Like I'm just going to be a drummer, and I decided to have a career that I could be my vocation, and music would be my avocation. Right. And then when I started out, I didn't start out working in a theater. I worked in fundraising and stuff like that. And then it turned out this way. And that's not everybody. That was my path, right? But that being said, I don't have any goals with the music I play that I'm going to stop my vocation. I'm going to do this only. Yeah. And so therefore, we do good financially. We do what we have to do, and we make our money. We make it work, and we do good with that. But at the end of the day, the music I'm playing at is just what I adore. I love the Beatles.
You just want to do it. Yeah.
I love the Beatles. Yeah. I love Van Halen. I love the Foo Fighters. I love Led Zeppelin. I love Pat Benatar. I love anything that was on my mom's Volkswagen Bug when I was a kid. Carly Simon and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Joni Mitchell and the Beach Boys and Linda Ronstadt and the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac and Neil Young. I just adore anything that was on my mom's AM radio. I just so when we go do these projects, if you see the bands I'm in, that's my record collection at home. Yeah. I'm just doing what I really love and am passionate about. Right. Well, Jeff, none of your music was even big since 1975. I don't know how to answer that. You're right. You got me. I'm really passionate about it, and I love it, and there's a demographic for it, and it never gets old to me. Right. And I'm with my best friends, and we all love this music, and oh my God, we gotta learn Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin, and tomorrow I gotta learn I Am the Walrus by the Beatles, and then I gotta learn Help Me by Joni Mitchell.
Great. I wanted to do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be doing this anyways, and then there's people that want to hear it, and as long as people want to hear it, I'll play. And if they don't want to hear it, I won't do it anymore. And that's what people keep coming to the shows, right? So I'll keep
and that's the thing. I think about there's that balance too between you make enough money to make it work, where like you're not out of pocket all this money because you're spending you're spending all this money
good
on
mad
stuff.
Money. I make enough, it's good mad money. Yeah. I get to buy a new drum set every few years.
Right. And you
But if it went away, my
and the band
life
gets paid, and the band gets paid and they get to go out to dinner or whatever it is, and they all had a great time.
Away. Yeah.
They all had a great time. So I think that's key for
it's like
people.
being on a softball team and you get paid a couple bucks for it.
I think if more people approached it that way, because there are so few. I mean, unless you are at the top of the echelon of like artists out there, if you are a career musician, it is a grind.
It's a grind.
If you're gonna go full time and you're gonna be in your band and you think like this is what I'm gonna do with my entire life,
a grind.
It is a grind.
I say there's like and all of musicians that exist. There's a few people that do that love that and do it right. We can name. There's probably 100, right? Right. But then in all of musiciandom, there's a lot of people who are doing it because they love it. And I think if you take out, I'm not trying to get a mansion. I'm not trying to be Elvis. I'm not trying to be rich and famous. I'm not trying to get a record deal. Right. Now, if you want to do that, that's awesome, man. Way to go. Rock on. And I'm only speaking for me. To your earlier question, I just really identify what I love to do.
Yeah.
And then I know what I'm not either. Like sometimes people call me and go, do you want to be the drummer in this Rush project? I'm not going to do good at that.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm not even good at that. That's awesome. I love it. I'm not cut out for that.
Yeah.
I'm a 4-on-the-floor bricklayer drummer, right?
Yeah.
I'm just playing music I love to play, and I'm good and I'm passionate about it, and the people want to hear it. And and if money, sometimes you make money, sometimes you don't. And if that happens, cool. But if you take the money and the fame out of it, and then I just love doing it. Then it's just schlepping the gear and buying the drum heads and the show and after the show and driving home late at night and having burgers and fries on the way. It's just the whole thing, man. It's awesome.
If you have that expectation, I mean, that's cool to hear too. That you like schlepping the gear. It's like that's part of it. We're loading in. We're gonna sound check. It's finding joy in.
I don't know why. I just love it.
Finding joy, but I think that's poignant and that's good to be intentional about. Even if you're a young band or whatever, is like, hey, find joy in those things. If you can't,
it's the wrong thing.
This might be the wrong thing for you because it like you said, it is 90%.
That's right.
Schlepping gear and putting stuff in your car and taking it out and then dropping it on your foot, and then you get 10%, or 5% maybe of like that euphoric moment when everyone's singing your song along with you or whatever, and you're singing it through a big PA and it sounds awesome and the lights are all on you.
Well, my wife always laughs because in a show day when I have a show, the show might be 90 minutes, but it's in 8 hours where I'm gone.
Right.
I got to drive there.
Yeah.
I got to load in.
Yeah.
I got to sound check. Then you have an hour wait and you got to eat dinner.
Find
you got to
food.
play, tear down, and get home. There went 8 hours. Whether it's a coffee shop gig or a show at
Climate Pledge or Lumen Field. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And I've played all those at corporate gigs and stuff, right? And so it doesn't matter. It's 8 hours. If you don't love that, you're not gonna be happy.
Learn to love it. Learn to love it, and learn that that's part of what it's all about. Yeah, or just play in your bedroom and be a virtuoso and put it on YouTube or whatever.
Awesome.
That's another route. You know what
but
I mean?
if you're gigging,
if you want to play shows,
that's different. That's what we're talking about today.
No. Well, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Thanks so much for sitting down with
thanks,
us
Aaron.
today,
it's a pleasure.
Jeff.
Love my favorite subject.
If any of you have questions for Jeff, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, put a comment below. Also, wherever you're listening to this podcast, please rate us and rate us 5 stars. That's our opinion. That's our opinion of this podcast. It says it's a 5-star podcast.
Absolutely.
So please rate us. That will help the algorithm gods, push this out to other people. Tell your friends about it. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us for KPC Underground. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider supporting KPC at kpcenter.org/donate. Your generosity helps us keep this and other programs going at Kirkland Performance Center. Be sure to check out our website for the latest events coming up. And hey, we'd also love to hear from you. Please rate our podcast, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. And if you have a specific question or an idea for a show, email us at podcast@kpcenter.org. Thanks for listening.